The Thousand-Year World. Xiefeng. The location, size and process of entering the Thousand-Year World. Starting from the Earth, it takes us about 16 minutes time, the negative universe speed, about 960 light-years, to reach the Thousand-Year World. Its size is about 10 times that of the Earth. At the moment when the flesh body dies and human consciousness disappears, another consciousness is born. Suddenly you will have the feeling of weightlessness, or floating. In fact, you are now in the space tunnel where you don't have fear. Instead, you have the pleasant, easy and wonderful feelings. You see no object, just the beams of color lines running backward. When you are about to reach the Thousand-Year World, you can dimly see there is a colorful bridge in the distance. At the moment when you see the colorful bridge, you will lose your consciousness again and fall into the sleep. When you regain your consciousness, you will first hear attractive celestial music. You open your eyes and find yourself lying in the arms of fairy with the kindly people cheering around you. They are celebrating your birth, which means you are in the Thousand-Year World. The geography in the Thousand-Year World. There are 5 continuous ridges in the Thousand-Year World with their height above 10,000 meters. There are more than 8,800 independent mounts with their height between 3,000 and 6,000 meters. There are 10 large rivers flowing into the vast and flat lake, which is greatly fertile. In this vast and flat lake, there are almost 100,000 islands. There are no deserts, Gobi deserts, or seas. Everywhere you can see the mountain streams, falls and lakes. Climate and plants. The light in the Thousand-Year World comes from the distant planets. There is no sun, no day and night difference, or no shadow. The temperature is almost stable. The sky is blue dotted with clouds, which change colors when floating and produce rich imaginations. There is no rainfall, snowfall, thunder, or lightning. There is often the cloud and mist with mild temperature. There are numerous types of plants, including the straight pine trees standing several hundred meters and the yellowwood with the tree crown covering a football court. The trees are everywhere on the mountains, islands, plains and canyons. They are not dense but green all the year. The flowers are blossoming all the time. A certain kind of flower can keep changing its color and give out different fragrance. The plants in the Thousand-Year World grow very slowly. It takes a leaf 3 years, birth time, to grow up into its normal size. It takes a pear 10 years to be mature. The life longevity of all animals and plants are 10 times of that of the animals and plants on the Earth. The average human life longevity is 100 years on the Earth, the average figure considering the future. However, the people in the Thousand-Year World will live 1,000 years in average. That's why it is called the Thousand-Year World. Animals and insects. There are hundreds of thousands of types of lands, air, aquatic and ground insects in the Thousand-Year World. But there is no meat-eating animal or reptile there. So you can never see the lions, wolves or foxes. Nor can you see the snakes or the lizards. The grass-eating animals have poor fertility. Of the insects, there are no fly, mosquito, bug, flea, or centipede. The food chain is different from that on the Earth. The most brutal is the bird that eats the worms. 3. Human society structure and life. The people in the Thousand-Year World mainly include 1. The local people, 2. The law violators from the 10,000-year world, and 3. The Earth people who have boasted perfect human nature after self-refinery and self-improvement. The Thousand-Year World has no class society, no wealth gap, no concept of nations, no competition, no conflict, no war, no theft or robbery. However, there is a management class there. There is no modern industry, agriculture, or livestock. There is no city or rural area. But there are numerous games here. The only work is to build the roads, boats and houses, raise the silkworms, weave the cloth and make the clothing. Because there is no rainfall, snowfall, cold weather, hot weather, day or night, the house structure is different from that on the earth. The people saw the wood with the rope made of a plant fiber. The wood of the houses is soft and easy to process. The roof is made by the large leaves of a solid plant. The wall is made of the dense red salix. The yard in front of the house is made by the unique flowers, grass and stones of all forms. The clothing is woven with very thin dyed silk. People wear this kind of light woven clothing, showing the celestial nature. The people living in the 1,000-year world don't eat meat. Their main food is the fruit, melon and half-mature cereal. Their drinks are made of the tea-like leaves soaked in the water together with honey. There are all year-round fruits and melons here. Because the total population is less than 200 million, 90% of the fruits and melons are eaten by the animals, birds and insects. The people in the 1,000-year world do not get married. So there is no clan or family here. They live in a society similar to the maternal society in some nations on the earth. People love each other quite randomly. They don't have frequent sex life as the earth people do. People only have 3 or 4 heat periods in a year. The women have low fertility and only have 1 or 2 kids in their life. Few women will have 3 kids. The labor of the men is mainly to build roads, houses and boats, while the women mainly look after the kids, raise the silkworms and weave the silk and cloth. 4. Ideology and values. Because they have the different objective existence from that on the earth, the people have different perceptions, feeling, thinking and other psychological activities from those on the earth. They don't have class, oppression, exploitation, wealth gap, political factions, religions, or struggling. The mentality of the people is in constant peace. There is no such thing as the morals on the earth, no sense of factional conflicts or getting the upper hand. Everything is natural and instinctive. There is no jealousy. There is no need to run a plant, shop, restaurant, or hotel. The greatest fun of the people is to attend the collective work followed by games and tourism. The supreme law is to avoid private ownership or waste. For instance, if you love a woman and want to take her, hinder her freedom and prevent her from having affairs with other men, you are violating the law. If you eat half of a pear and throw away the left half, you are wasting and violating the law. The biggest punishment for the violation is to prevent you from the collective work. The final retribution is that you will be downgraded to the mortal world after you live and die 1,000 years later. You will begin your sufferings in the new cycle of life as an earth person. 5. Others. There is no congenital disease, infectious disease, or the disease caused by the food or labor. There is no psycho-disease caused by the tight human relationship or supply shortage. The people only die from the old age, not for any other reasons. There is no air crash, no traffic accident, no snake biting, shark attacking, no fighting, and no falling down the cliff. They reach their adolescent period when they are 100 years old. The youth lasts from 100 and ends at over 700. The self-refinery period lasts between 700 years till death. It is also the period when they begin to participate in the management of the 1,000-year world. People in the 1,000-year world know about the earth and its people. 6. Conclusion. The 1,000-year world is one with truth, goodness, and beauty. It is a world of love, peace, happiness, and the upgraded human nature. Undoubtedly, anyone with perfect human nature can go there because there is no quota. A glance at the 1,000-year world. Xiefeng. Translated by Transin and edited by Kair. Mount Butterfly in the Lotus Mountains is breezy and shrouded in mist with wind that soughs through the pines. Flowers spread across the mountainside and vie with each other for glamour. Down to the foot of the mountain, orchards and fields grow aromatic fruits where a clear stream meanders through Cuckoo Valley, past Grace River, and finally joins Ripple Lake. 39 celestials, 22 females, 15 males, and 2 children, reside under Mount Butterfly. Not far away, Sakura Island is inhabited by another group of celestials. Crossing over Fragrant Hill and walking along Sesame Slope for about 30 miles, Lush Highland will be found, home to more than 200 celestials. Approximately 300 celestials in total live in these three places within 200 miles of each other. Today, after Jade woke up, she dressed in a light blue skirt made of transparent silk and walked out of her house. High in the azure, birds soared over the clouds and silver waterfalls fell from the green of Mount Butterfly in a symphony of nature. In the forecourt, flowers were in bloom, the fullest of which were peach blossoms. Their pink petals were arranged in layers, 18 beige stamens stretched out from the center where bees searched for nectar. Along the stone path and through several rockeries, Jade came to the mulberry garden while holding a willow basket. She was surrounded immediately by a Huang and Lotus. "You must have enjoyed a good sleep last night. Was your lover good?" The two joked and chuckled. Jade tried to catch a Huang in mock irritation, but the two ran away, so she chased after them. The three fairies chased one another while laughing in the garden until Jade caught Lotus and gently pinched on her peachy cheeks. They pinched each other's bodies in fun. A Huang kissed Jade's cheek in chaos and asked naughtily, "Is this how your lover kissed you?" The kissed one held a Huang in her arms and answered with more kisses on her red lips, "That's it." Having played enough, they began plucking mulberry leaves and returned when the basket was full. Jade was growing silkworms in 3 bamboo baskets of 3 square meters each, with each accommodating about 1,000 silkworms. She distributed mulberry leaves evenly into them. When silkworms climbed up onto the leaves, she would shake the baskets gently, silkworm excrement would leak through the basket bottom, and she would sweep it into a fine wicker dustpan and bury it at the roots of the flowers. Jade was about to rest after feeding her silkworms when she heard someone trotting over. It was the lovely little 6-year-old, Long. He had inherited fine features from his mother, Ray. He gasped, "Aunt, Mom said the melons are ripe. Come and have a taste." Jade replied, "I'll go there, shall we go together," and took Long's tiny hand. They left the courtyard. As they stepped across a bridge over a stream, Long asked, "Aunt, grasses are green by the river beneath the bridge, flowers are blossoming in spring, all beings are as sentient as my beauty, though the world is created in holographic order." "What does sentience mean?" Jade said, "It means that the river, flowers, stars, breeze, melons, birds, and everything else can feel, like your mom and me." "Who taught you the lines?" "Uncle Mock. He and Uncle Bennett teach me a lot. Do you want me to recite some?" Long began reciting verses immediately. Boundless and infinite. Without distance or space. Only the holographic order. An inspiration seized by heart. The world is so clear to be understood. Walking and chatting, Jade and Long came to a forest of lush bamboos and fresh shoots. The rustling of bamboos and songs of yellow warblers echoed deeply. It seemed that the forest was little known to the outside world and only the sound of nature could be heard. Out of bamboo forest, a vast plain extended before their eyes where distant hills dissolved into mist. The breeze was gentle and the sun was warm. On verdant plain, spotted deer strolled and swans fluttered. Heading toward the direction of flute music and dancing where the melon fields laid, Jade paced up with Long. They had nearly arrived when Ray shouted, "Jade, hurry up. Today is the Melon Festival, let's celebrate it." Ray had actually gathered everyone. In addition to 39 fairies from Mount Butterfly, they had 6 guests from Sakura Island, and Meta and Kin from Lush Highland. In the field, Ling, Sang, Bar, Moy, Chiron, and Hai were picking melons. They were yellow and green in color, round and plump in shape, and very inviting. While Meta from Lush Highland was dancing and guests were all drawn to her tantalizing moves with her well-curved shape and the flutter of her orange dress, Kin was singing aloud to Meta's dance, "Ripe fruits and melons await their harvest, mulberry leaves wait for picking, and Meta in the melon field waits for love." Equals 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 equals. The truth is that Meta was in estrus and she glowed with youth. Every natural move of her dance was sensual and captivating. Her thick dark hair, touching eyes, and pink face were perfectly appealing. After the music, everyone ate the sweet and crispy melons. Then Ray announced, "Today is special. Everyone, stop building bridges, paving roads, collecting honey, trimming orchards, and making clothes. These melons have been grown for 3 years since I planted the seeds from Peach Village of Birdsong Mountain. Enjoy them. The melons will induce your saliva and refresh you, and their pleasant impression can last for 10 days. In addition, Meta from Lush Highland is looking for her love. Gentlemen, show your best." Ray's words drew great applause. Girls circled and started the mulberry leaf-picking dance while boys performed the bridge dance from within their circle. Kin was at the center of the circle and he lifted Meta up to sit on his shoulders. The beautiful seeker of love allowed her soft dress to cover Kin's head, and Kin spun around, holding her calves so that she could choose a lover from the crowd. Boys came to court Meta assiduously and implied their strength and tricks by dancing. Standing by the scene, 3 celestials accompanied the dancers with flutes, pine, river, and cloud. They were about 800 years old and the dancing continued until their music ceased. The next game was composing verses. Whoever's verses expressed Meta's feelings best would be the one that she would have. Meta started the game with her verses. Waves run high in the vast lake. Twin peaks rise above the earth. Seeds sprout in a dense forest. But a duet still lacks the other instrument. Sang from Mount Butterfly composed. Sang River flows silently all year long. Snow melts on the high hill. Swans visit the ravine. I play music to build the rainbow bridge. Rice from Sakura Island sang. Rosy clouds appear over the hill. Where an exotic flower is up high. Clouds soar with strong wind in the sky. Thundering and lightning dance to climax. Becky from Mount Butterfly said. 1,000-year golden fir is in bud. A fountain in peace is to flow. The surge will reach the depth of the sea. The temple of gods is splendid as a flower. Chiswa from Mount Butterfly stepped forward, he bowed and sang. I row with a paddle across Double Peak Valley. Get wet passing the jungles. Rising hills and streams appear. I find my way back and forth and reach heaven. Raisin from Sakura Island smilingly sang in an unhurried manner. Endless springtime. The plum has blossomed for times to sing merrily and dance gracefully. Even the leafless ironwood can turn the world upside down with its charm. All the guests from Mount Butterfly and Sakura Island, excepting Pine and River, finished their turns. Meta had been limp and soft as a noodle, no one knew who she chose. Ray came to the scene. Ray was more than 600 years old. She was considerate, sophisticated, and respected. She smiled and said, Jade, take Meta to your room to rest. Everyone else, come to Entertainment Garden. Pine will lecture, then we will guess riddles, play hide-and-seek and tell stories. Equals 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 equals. Everyone headed toward Entertainment Garden delightedly. Ray spoke privately with Sang, Becky, Chiron, Chiswa, and Baong respectively, and then left along with other celestials. Here come 2 flowers, let's go to the first one, Entertainment Garden. Entertainment Garden had been built up for more than 30,000 years. It has a square in the center, surrounded by 300 stone benches arranged in circles and covered with soft mats. Tree bonsai, rock bonsai, and flower bonsai are placed between them. Around the square is the clear, blue ring lake. Within the lake, grotesque coral reef-like rockeries are embedded with emeralds and mosses. There are also reeds, evergreens, calla lilies, egg bamboo leaves, wandering Jews, aloe, sea onions, hibiscus palms, lotuses, gem flowers, bamboo begonias, scarlet kaffir lilies, variable leaf wood, chamomile, fairy pens, and other plants and flowers. All kinds of small fish shuttle in the lake and above them, mandarin ducks, red-crowned cranes, spotted ducks, gulls, kingfishers, egrets, herons, white-tailed sea carvings, and larks swim or fly. On the periphery of Ring Lake is a flag path beside a garden where thyme, globe amaranths, yulan, bauhinias, forsythias, rhododendrons, pomegranates, banana scrubs, gardenias, jasmines, hibiscus mutabilis, camellia, cymbidium, hyacinth, tulips, violets, vinca, peonia, tuberose, marigold, peonies, and roses are blooming. Outside the garden, hundreds of rockeries with exquisite layouts, upon which creepers, ivy, and night willow herbs are coiled. It's a fun place to play hide-and-seek. Pine sat upright in the center of the square. His hair was white, but he was in good health with sharp ears and eyes. Male and female celestials sat on stone benches, casually listening to Pine talk about Tao. The universe is boundless while life is evergreen. Modesty and gratitude will perpetuate the water source of life. Follow your heart and gain a tacit understanding. Experience both the ego-absent realm and the ego-involved realm. One should empty their mind before entering the higher-level space. Act in accordance with your nature. Never admire luxury or possess even a needle. Seize the day and always remain vigilant. Mortals suffer a lot because of their possessions. We celestials must never act like them. The 10,000-year world is close at hand. Concentrate on self-cultivation, never ruin your future. After listening to Pine's preaching for some time, attentively, male and female celestials felt refreshed, energized, pure, and enlightened. The next game was guessing riddles. Hai stood up first and proposed a riddle. Both ends are curved like carrying poles. It is not used for carrying water or rice. It is like a flat ground from east to west. It is always covered with emerald green moss. Beverin from Sakura Island immediately stood up and said, "It is a bridge." Hori, a female celestial, stood up and proposed a riddle. "It is black and dark and even 18 cattle can't pull it." Silence, a male one, shouted, "It's a cave." Yovan, who looked girlish, stood up smartly, cleared his throat, and proposed a riddle. "There is a unique cave on the hillside. It is usually closed and has a seam. If it is stirred by a peak, the brushes on both sides will drip with water." Hearing the riddle, everyone was stunned at first but then roared with a laughter that echoed to the clouds. The riddle game lasted for a while longer. After that, they told stories and played hide-and-seek. Laughter, joy, and happiness abounded. Equals 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 equals. Meta from Lush Highland followed into Jade's bright and spacious room. Her walls, doors, and roof were made of bamboo and her silk curtains floated in the wind. Outside her rear window was the picturesque land of splendors, where red-crowned cranes dancing trippingly, sweet flowers, and tweeting birds can only be described by one word, beautiful. Several bamboo deck chairs lined her room. Her wide bamboo bed was covered with several layers of mats knitted with fragrant milkweeds as thin as threads. The mats emitted a refreshing fragrance. It was soft and comfortable to lie upon. The pillow made of flexible lotus roots was yellowish and elegant. Jade knew that Meta could not hold it at that moment, so she patted on Meta's plump hips and left. Due to their life structures, women in the 1,000-year world generally had no sex lives. Their menstrual cycles were different from those of mortals, only occurring once every 3 months. A few days before their cycles would end were their estrus periods, so they desired intimacy only 3 or 4 times per year. That which flows constantly will form a small murmuring stream, but that which does not will accumulate and become a reservoir. It is quiet when closed, but after the gate opens, waves will surge and uncontrollable billows will dash against the sky that cannot be resisted by self-control. Meta was on the edge of such an explosion at that moment. Men in the 1,000-year world were completely different from women. They could display their elegant demeanor at any time and control their lust totally. Without external stimulus, they had no desire, but when teased by women during their estrus, would gallop on the grasslands like runaway wild horses. In addition, celestials in the 1,000-year world enjoyed excellent lifelong health and thus did not suffer from emotional distress or psychological burdens. There were various recreational and physical activities, so women were soft as cotton, highly energetic, dynamic, and attractive, while men were physically strong, muscular and powerful, and full of vital essence and vigor. Meta sat on pins and needles and felt anxious. There was an overwhelming potential energy inside her body that was ready to explode but failed to find its outlet. At that very moment of her unbearable thirst, Becky came into view. At the sight of Becky's big, tall, and muscular physique, and sparkling eyes, Meta jumped onto him like a hungry tiger. Becky put his arms around Meta's waist and spined his body at his convenience while Meta used her legs to step onto his hips and hooked his waist with her feet. Becky held Meta in his arms tightly. They kissed madly with their lips stuck together like glue. Meanwhile, Meta's middle part made reciprocating motions back and forth like a hungry bird opening its mouth to take food from its mother's throat. Her plump labia and valley were rubbed firmly against his hot love rod. With uncontrollable excitement, after rubbing about 50 times, a stream of clear liquid flowed out of her vulva and nourished her surrounding parts. Just at that moment, Becky squeezed into her temple of God with his penis along her seam flowing with clear liquid. Meta suddenly had a full feeling inside as if her pelvis would split, a current flowed through her body and an unbearable pleasure was beating inside her. Becky held Meta and went to her bedside. Meta was in a supine position on the bed with her feet on the ground while Becky moved rapidly. Meta closed her eyes and ignored the raging wind. Meta felt swelling, limp, and numb, pain, smoothness, warmth, fullness, wetness, and energy. It seemed a wonderful electric wave radiated from the center point between her legs to every cell and corner. Meta tightened her body. Her flexible tendons of legs, feet, hands, and other parts were stiff like reinforcing steel bars after an electric shock. The gate had opened and the flood poured out along it. Short of breath, she felt extremely excited and wonderful. It was like flying, a volcanic explosion, and cracking and bursting fireworks. Opening the gate was just a prelude. Becky opened the gate and extinguished his fire, little by little. For Meta, opening the gate was far from enough and she wanted to drain out the reservoir after months of accumulation. If anything was left, it would be very unbearable for her in the following days, so more wonderful, graceful, unrestrained, lewd, dissolute, winding, and pleasurable plots were staged with the arrival of Sang, Raisin, Chiron, Chiswa, and Baong one after another. These stories are omitted because mortals cannot morally bear for them to be described. This has only been a limited glimpse of the 1,000-year world with its own lifestyle and morals which we cannot imagine. We will experience more detailed scenarios as our thinking deepens, our consciousness improves, and our life structure advances. The 10,000-year world. Xiefeng. In the distant space about 58 minutes away from the Earth, the negative universe speed, about 3,480 light-years, there is a beautiful planet, the 10,000-year world. The planet is about 16 times larger than the Earth. It doesn't rotate. Instead, it just moves slowly in the rotary river system. It has 16 small sun satellites surrounding it and hanging in the universe with equal distances among them. These 16 satellites with extremely high density respectively give out light waves with different frequencies, dividing the 10,000-year world into 16 zones with different colors. Each zone has its own feature. The growth ways of its plants and animals, the ecological structure and climate differs from each other. Interestingly, one of its satellites, suns, emits the black light with the heat. The zone it covers is in eternal night. Part of the animals, plants, insects and stones in this zone has their own different colors. Standing on the mountain in this zone, you can see the mountains, rivers and skies shining splendidly, just like you are standing on the top of the skyscrapers and enjoying the household lights in the city. On the side of the night zone is the scene of eternal dawns. You can see the charming dawn clouds and the misty horizon producing the mysterious scenes. On the other side is the eternal evening scene. The attractive evening clouds change constantly. Beside the dawn zone is the morning scene. Here the sun is always rising above the horizon, the birds are singing, the morning dews are like crystals, the mountains, forests and streams are filled with the energy of life. The air is always fresh with fragrance. You cannot help but admire for the scenes from the bottom of the heart and say, how beautiful life is. Across the night zone is the eternal noon with the sun shining all the time, clouds hanging in the sky, comfortable breeze and cool weather, the blossoming flowers, flying birds, fragrant grass and trees, and abundant fruits, looks prosperous and flourishing. In the 10,000-year world, there are numerous rivers and 16 seas having the same size with the Pacific. The crystal-like sea waters, the abrupt mountains, the fairy scenes, the clouds, the old trees, the falls, the streams, the flowers, small lakes and ponds constitute the attractive landscapes. In the lakes, ponds and streams, you can see the swimming ducks and mandarin ducks, the playing partridges, the dancing cranes and lotus, the swinging water grass, the jumping frogs, the swirling dragonflies, and the swarming fish, enjoying their life in the nature. There is rainfall in all the territory of the 10,000-year world. However, there is no hail or snow. Sometimes there is thunder, lightning and wind. The people actually should be called as celestial beings, living here live a completely different life from the earth people. They are all naked and capable of flying on the clouds. They have no sex life and no concept of marriage. The female celestial beings don't give birth, have no family or clan. The people living in the 1,000-year world build roads, boats, weave cloth and silk. However, the people in the 10,000-year world do not engage in labor. They don't live in the houses. Instead, they live in the hermits' abodes of all kinds. Their main food is the melons and fruits such as pear. In the journey to the east, the monk Tang and his apprentices passed by the Wuzhuang temple of the Jinyuan celestial being at the Mount Wanshou. The fruit they ate there is called the ginseng fruit. The people living in the 10,000-year world drink the stream water. They don't have private property. Apart from the meditation and silent practice, they would go out touring for the attractive scenes. There is no management here. Everything is peaceful, quiet and elegant. The plants and animals in the 10,000-year world grow even more slowly than those in the 1,000-year world. They blossom every 3,000 years and bear fruit in another 3,000 years. The average life longevity of the celestial beings is 35,000 years. The beards of some elderly celestial beings even touch the ground. The young celestial beings have the delicate skin like lotus. They die in a sitting posture, just as the Buddhists do. After death, their bodies will become a column of light smoke floating away. The living celestial beings will not grieve over the death. The dead celestial beings would go to one of the four worlds. Those who have never had the worldly thought will enter the Elysium World. Those who have had the worldly thought, after they die, will have the column of smoke gathering and taking form again, starting another cycle of life in the 10,000-year world. Those who have often had the worldly thought will be degraded into the 1,000-year world. Those who have had the worldly thousand and put it into the practice will be degraded to the mortal world. The worldly thought refers to the desire for the power, wealth, family life, sexual intercourse, private property in the mortal world. It also refers to the grief, hatred and jealousy. The celestial beings in the 10,000-year world look like the descendants of the hybrids between the Eastern and Western people. They are extremely beautiful and handsome. There are no handicapped or ugly people here. Their average height seems to be 180 centimeters. Just like the mortal world, the lady celestial beings are smaller than the male celestial beings. The 10,000-year world can hold more than 10 billion celestial beings. But at present the population there is only a little bit more than 100 million. It is just like the Earth with only 6 million people. So if you can make diligent self-improvement as the Taoists do, you all have a bright future. Those who love their families, the opposite sex, motherland, work, wealth, and position, and those who like watching TV, listening to the radio, surfing the internet, driving the limousines, reading, living in the luxury villas, fighting against the people, heaven or earth, are not able to enter the 10,000-year world because there is no such thing there. The process of entering the 10,000-year world is, after the flesh bodies die, the spiritual body, actually your body is complete with all organs and tissues, enters the space tunnel. You feel weightless. Flying on the clouds, you have great pleasure and joy. In less than an hour, the negative universe speed, you will see a colorful life bridge. After getting on the bridge, you will change into a column of smoke and lose your consciousness for the moment. When you come to yourself again, you will resume your body form. Now you have entered the 10,000-year world. The people in the 10,000-year world can clearly remember their former cycle of life, knowing about the 1,000-year world and the mortal world. Some inspirations for those who intend to do self-improvement in the 10,000-year world. For the endless years we must refine ourselves and never seek fame or wealth. Do good deeds every day, you can live longer. Engage in meditation, you will get protection from the celestial beings. The empty space is not empty. The true color is colorless. The intangible is tangible. The yin and yang, and the positive and negative exists in the unity of the opposites. The celestial world is remote, but it can be reached instantly. Eat the sun essence and drink the moon tenet. Do this for long and you can build your celestial body. Live simple, you get the support from the celestial beings. Live practical, you will reach the Tao. The body is dynamic while the heart is static. Your life is limitless once you ignore the wealth and authority. Believe it or not, the heaven mystery is easy to be known. Elysium World. Xiefeng. The 1,000-year world and the 10,000-year world is part of the positive universe. From the perspective of the materials, they are the objective existence. They can be seen and touched. All the objects in them have life longevity. The Elysium World is part of the negative world and everything there is fantasy. In the Elysium World, time almost disappears. All the objects exist by nature, instead of by the form. Sometimes they, based on their needs, can change into a certain form temporarily. But when they exist by nature, they are eternal. The Elysium World is the Western Elysium World in Buddhism. They are also called the Buddha land and Buddha state. Where is the Elysium World? It just lies in the Earth universe. Then how big is it? It has the same size as the Earth universe, including the micro-universe and macro-universe. We can understand that the Elysium universe is located millions of billions of light years away. And everything around us, including ourselves, is also in the Elysium world. As far as the dream is concerned, the space in the dream is the negative space. So what's the size of the dream of each person? No one can answer this question because the size of the dream world is determined on the dreamer's perception, experience, the degree of spiritual nature and the thinking ability. The more perception and experience we have, the purer our spiritual nature and the more capable our thinking is, the large size our dream world will have. Some people can see the Buddha, God, sun, and rainbow in their dreams. Some people can fly on the clouds, the 1,000-year world or the 10,000-year world with colors in their dreams. These dreams mean they have very pure spiritual nature. However, some people can never have such dreams in their life. The scenes in the dreams of some people are the same as the real human society because they have low thinking ability. Some people can solve the problems in their dreams that can never be resolved in the reality because they have deeper perception and experience. The Elysium is similar to the dream worlds because they are all the negative spaces. Whether or not we can perceive it and enter it, and how deep we can enter it depend on ourselves. To enter the dream, we rely on our perception, experience, and spiritual nature degree in thinking ability. To enter the Elysium world, we rely on our Buddhist nature, without which we can never do it. Most of the things imagined in our brains are true realities because the human brain is part of the universe. They are the reflections of the universe, just like any cell and blood in the human body can reflect his entire look. The human brains can not only reflect the positive space, but also the negative space. From the perspective of the negative space, the humans cannot imagine the whole look of the universe even if their imagination is extremely rich and vast. Now let's come to the Elysium world. Everything of the Earth universe belongs to the Elysium world. Then can we see the Earth where we live in the Elysium world? My answer is yes and no at the same time. We can because the Earth does exist in the Elysium world. We cannot because the Earth we see from the perspective of the Elysium world is different from what we humans know about the Earth. So can we see the Earth people from the Elysium world? The answer is also yes and no at the same time. We can because of the existence of human beings. We cannot because the people in the Elysium world do not have our looks and appearances. For example, what can we see in the dark night? We can see nothing except the luminous bodies. But does it mean nothing exists in the dark night simply because we cannot see them? No, they do exist. We can't see them because we do not have the ability to see them at night. We can only see the fireflies shining in the night, but we cannot see their entire bodies. Can we say the fireflies have no heads or wings because we can't see them? Definitely not. We can't see the running rats in the field in the dark night. But the owls can. Does it mean the owls have special functions? No. That's because the eyes of the owls have different retina structure from that of the humans. The eyes of many animals look the same as ours. But at night their eyes are shining green. In special circumstances, the objects have special expression forms. In the polar nights and polar light, the human eyes can see nothing. But it doesn't mean nothing exists there. In the Elysium world, the existence form of the Earth and the human beings are different from our realities. In reality, we don't see much difference between the humans. But seen from the Elysium world, the difference between humans is great. Some people almost have no form. Some people show up as a column of dim light. Some people appear as a column of red light. Some people show up in red colors with different height of light columns because the people have different mass or nature. The mass is a spiritual nature which is formed at birth and consolidated in the enduring and persistent belief, or the so-called self-refinery in self-improvement. The long-time self-improvement can change the people's mass. The enduring self-deterioration can also change the people's mass. The existence form of life is various and weird. In each person's bedroom, there are hundreds of millions of lives invisible to us. In the surrounding space, there are thousands of flowing rivers and millions of celestial bodies. Each stone records the time lapse of thousands of years that we can't see. Our brain waves keep emitting the information waves about the health and inner world, which we cannot see either. The ghosts we often talk about are actually the life between the yin and yang worlds, which we cannot see either. The scenes in each one's dream is also invisible to us except the dreamers and people in the dream. Seen from the Elysium world, there is life everywhere in the universe. There is life not only on all the planets but also in the empty space. The life is not only on the land, but also under the land. The life is not only in the air, but also in the vacuum. There is life not only in the warm places, but also in cold weather. There is life on the sun, in the stone, on the light rays, and in the radio waves. The life is everywhere and within life. The Buddha land is remote at the universe end. The Buddha land is near in front of us. To enter the 1,000-year world and the 10,000-year world, we need time and have to pass the space tunnel. To enter the Elysium world, we can get there in an instant and become the Buddha very shortly. Because the density and mass in different zones in the universe and space are different, the 3,000 worlds have been formed. These 3,000 worlds, based on their distance and mutual dependence, are divided into 10 continents, namely, Lotus Continent, Borneo Continent, Kasayapa Continent, Ingwu Continent, Amitabha Continent, Celestial Islands Continent, the continent for 3 realms lives to pass through, Moon Temple Continent, God's Continent and Supreme Authentic Wisdom Continent. It is impossible to describe in detail the 3,000 worlds and 10 continents. Till now, human beings have been living for thousands of years. Today the science has development nanometer and cloning technologies. But it still can't describe the life body of humans, let alone the vast Elysium world. What I can show you is just an outline. The universe, the Earth universe, where we live is just a particulate in the large universe. To pass the space tunnel we have to walk through the particulate. It will take us 1,860 years, about 5.85 billion and 57 million light years. The particulate is an organic integrity revolving around the heaven world. We call this revolving body as the Lowell Rotary System, which has over 3,000 rotary river world, the large worlds. Each rotary river world has almost 3,000 Milky Way systems, the middle worlds. In each Milky Way system, there are almost 3,000 solar systems, small worlds. Please note that the so-called system is a relatively independent celestial clan. It is not that one sun-like star constitutes a solar system. In some zones several hundred suns form a solar system. In some solar systems there are several thousand stars, or even tens of thousands of stars. The Earth is just a member of the solar system of the small worlds, not efficient to constitute a world. From the angle of the Buddha land, we divide the 3,000 large worlds into 10 continents, namely, the 10 Buddha states. Such division is not even division of the Earth universe or based on the number of planets and galaxies. Instead, they are divided according to the features and mass of life, or the level of Buddhism. The Buddha, in common sense, is just a general concept. As a matter of fact, the Buddha has 10 levels of powers. Each level constitutes a continent. There are strict regulations in the 10 continents prohibiting the Buddha from going from one continent to another, just like the Monkey King draws a circle for Monk Tang with his Monkey King bar. But we don't have the power to enter that circle. Before coming to the mortal world, Sakyamuni used to live in the Lotus Continent. Later he passed the continent for 3 realms lives to pass through to enter the mortal world. After fulfilling his mission in the mortal world, he was then upgraded to the God's Continent. The senior monks in the Buddhism, after dying, will go to the Lotus Continent. Hereby I will explain the 10 continents from the high level to the low level. The lowest level is the Lotus Continent and the highest level is the Supreme Authentic Wisdom Continent. Lotus Continent. In the eyes of the mortal people, the Lotus Continent is an empty world in which there is nothing. In the eyes of the people living in the 1,000-year world, the Lotus Continent is a vast sea. In the eyes of the celestial beings living in the 10,000-year world, the Lotus world is a vast world of lotus blossoming on the sea. In the eyes of Buddha, numerous Buddha are sitting on the lotus blossoming. The head of each Buddha is surrounded by a light circle of about 1 meter in diameter, which is called the Buddha light. So the Lotus Continent is a world emitting the green Buddha light. Borneo Continent. At first view, the Borneo Continent is a world of emptiness. Another look, it is a vast plain. Look one more time, it is a world of hills with the same height. On the fourth look, these hills keep changing the forms. They are like the 6-month-old babies playing the small colorful balls, the coiling dragons, the crouching tigers, the young pine trees swinging in the breeze, or the eagles about to fly into the sky. On the fifth observation, we can see the Buddha sitting in meditation, eyes closed, emitting the blue light from their heads. It is a world of the blue Buddha light. Kasyapa continent. It is the hometown to the Kasyapa Buddha with stretching mountains and ridges. Each cluster of mountain circles to form an elegant residence. The pavilions and buildings hide in the trees and orchards. The herbs of birds fly in the sky. The rabbits and roe deer run on the fields and in the mountains. The streams flow on the plains with delicate bridges on them. The children play in the yards. The women pick up grapes and pears under the grape trellis or in the orchards. Some of the men eat watermelon in the field, some play chess in the pavilions or buildings surrounded by bamboos, some drink wine or tea, some read poems or play musical instruments, etc. It seems that it is some place in the mortal world. Actually, all these scenes come from illusion. If you keep looking, you will find the flying birds will alight on the trees and become leaves or fruits, the playing kids will become the blossoming flowers, the chasing animals will become the stones with various forms, the bridges on the rivers will suddenly become the trees, the rivers will become the clouds and mists, the smiling women and men who are playing chess, drinking, reading poems, or playing musical instruments will disappear, and the pavilions and buildings will become hills. All of these are the incarnations of Buddha. Ingwu continent. On the first look, Ingwu continent looks like a rolling air mass, which later grows into a round ball with rough surface. The ball keeps expanding and enlarging. The rough surface gradually forms the mountains, rivers, and lakes. You can see all the animals, plants, and nature on the earth and in the 1,000-year world, 10,000-year world. On the clouds, you can see the temples rising with soft celestial music and bell sounds. Accompanied by the celestial music and bell sounds, the plants, animals, humans, celestial beings and birds gradually rise and change into the forms of Buddhist monks and nuns flying to their temples. In these temples, the burning incense produces smoke and Buddhist masters give the Buddhism lectures. After the lectures are over, the Buddhist monks and nuns return to the ground and are transformed back to their original forms. The temples in the air disappear slowly. The land contracts and becomes a round ball, which later becomes a rolling air mass. Amida Buddha continent. Seen from the distance, at the end of the horizon there is a bright spot. The circles of colorful halo expand from the bright spot. As we approach nearer, we can find it is a crystal-like transparent planet bigger than the Earth. Through the halo, we can find a splendid palace in the center of the planet. In the middle of the palace a Buddha who is sitting is Amida Buddha. His body emits the colorful halo like the water ripples, which always runs through the palace, the transparent planet and gets into the vast universe. The halo even reaches the earth where the humans live, protects and cleanses the life of those with Buddha nature. When people say Amida Buddha and repent, the frequency of the Buddha light complies with that of the human mind. These people can get the protection from the Buddha. This is the so-called Buddha shines everywhere. Celestial Islands continent. Seen from 10,000 light years away, there is a disk, composed of the mist and dust moving slowly. The diameter of the disk is about 300,000 light years. The mists are the flowing heaven river and the dusts are the planets in the heaven river. These planets have the similar size with the earth. They float in the heaven river just like the sea islands. The total number of these planets is 80 billion, on 30 billion of which live one Buddha, or the celestial being. That's why it is called the Celestial Islands continent. On the Celestial Islands continent, there are 80 billion islands and each has a name. The Buddha living on these islands have their own names too. Apart from the 30 billion islands resided by the celestial beings, the other 50 billion islands are still yet to be resided, waiting for the people upgraded into the Buddha from the mortal world, 1,000-year world and 10,000-year world. Now let's have a look at the Snow Peak Island. On this island there is a peak with 10 levels. The first level is in the amber color. The second level is in the green color. The third level is in gold. Level 4 to level 10 is in light blue, gray, milk white, purple, red, black and snow white respectively. Because the top level is shining in snow white, it is called the Snow Peak Mount. On the Snow Peak Island lives a fairy, Buddha, called Yue. One day she succeeded in practicing a fantastic spell and invited some celestial beings to appreciate it. We know that this island is nothing special except the Snow Peak. On the vast, empty and dry land, there is no animal, plant or human. It is a lonely island producing nothing but loneliness. Then this day a common stone at the foot of the snow peak moved a little bit and changed into an extremely charming lady, who was Yui's celestial being, the owner of the Snow Peak Island. She stood up straight and then sat down with her legs crossed. The illuminating fireballs flew from her head and into the sky. We followed one of these fireballs and saw it flying across the vast heaven river and sea and reaching the Coral Castle Island. It got into the brain of a dolphin which was resting on the beach. The dolphin swung a little bit and changed into a handsome young man, who was called Dolphin Celestial Body, the owner of the Coral Castle Island. He touched her head, smiled and waved to the sea. Then the waves became violent and a flying horse with wings flew from the waves. Dolphin Celestial Being got on the horse and flew towards the Snow Peak Island. On his way, he met the Green Island Flute Buddha riding on a black cow, the Flower Fairy sitting on a lotus from the Flowers Island, the Crane Celestial Being riding on a crane from the Thousand Birds Island, the White Man Buddha riding on a 9-head beast from the 10,000 Beasts Island, and the Gold Wool Celestial Being riding on the Fire Wind Wheel from the Fire and Wind Island, who were also on their journey to the Snow Peak Island. When they were about to reach the island, they saw thousands of celestial beings in the sky. Some of them were riding the fish, some on the peacock, some on a penholder, some on a blanket, some on a dog sledge, some on a big leaf, some on the arch bridge made of hundreds of birds, some on the clouds, some on tornado, and some on comet with tails. When reaching the Snow Peak Island, they all descended to the ground and their transport became the colorful cloth on their bodies or walking sticks in their hands. These Buddha and celestial beings have weird appearances. Some are dwarfs, some are tall and strong, some are handsome, some are ugly, some have cold eyes, some have long ears stretching to the shoulders, some have the face of kids but white hair, some have beards touching the ground, some have 3 eyes, some have 18 hands, some have bald heads, and some talk like 6-year-old kids. But the lady celestial beings are pretty and fascinating. On the empty land of the island, there were thousands of celestial beings saying hello to each other. Then all of them turned to Yui's celestial being to congratulate her on another spell. When everybody was talking happily, a thunder-like voice came from the crowd, "Sister Yue, we are all your guests. Do the guests have to stand on the wild field like this?" The celestial beings traced the voice and saw a celestial being waving to Yue. He was more than 2 meters tall with rough black hair, red face and large head. He was the Red-Face Buddha, the owner of Black Canyon Island. Yue smiled and said, "Please." She spread her long right sleeve in the air and there appeared a palace made of red bricks and green tiles in front of them. In the palace there were many buildings and pavilions connected by dozens of meters of corridors. The celestial beings were amazed and voiced their admiration. Then Yui's celestial being spread her left sleeve into the sky and said, "Please." Suddenly more than 1,000 kinds of grass, plants and trees such as the bamboo, pear trees, willows, pine trees, berry trees and redwood grow beside the pavilions and buildings and on the wild fields in the palace. The trees and plants swing in the breeze and give out fragrance. The fruit hangs on the trees. The celestial beings cheered again for the wonder. Then a skinny celestial being with only one eye on the forehead said, "Sister Yue, what do you plan to place in the open space?" Yui giggled and gave a wave into the air with her two hands. There appeared a pond in the space. In the middle of the pond there was an artificial hill with water rushing out of the top. The fragrant lotus, swimming swans and mandarin ducks, the jumping goldfish and frogs made scene attractive. Another round of cheers came. Then a barefoot Buddha with big belly and mouth said loudly, "Sister Yui, your spells are excellent. But would you like to serve us something to eat because we have traveled far to your island?" When saying this, he touched his big belly protruding out of his clothes. The other celestial beings also agreed with him and looked at Yui's celestial being. Yui gave another smile and jumped on the cloud 10 meters above the ground. She extended her right hand with 5 fingers stretched and pointed to the peach tree beside her. The peaches in the tree were all absorbed into her hands. She closed her hands, threw out the peaches suddenly and said, "Please have a look." The peaches rolled into the crowd and grew larger, turning the delicate and old-fashioned square table and backrest chairs. The celestial beings took their seats happily. Then Yui said loudly, "Attention, please." She blew a mouth of celestial mist covering a pear tree. Moments later, the mist disappeared and the pears began to drop onto the ground, turning into the pretty fairies in colorful silk cloth. Holding fruit plates with strange fruit in their hands, the fairies came to the tables and settled the fruit plates, saying to the celestial beings gently, "Please." Then they turned and stood behind the celestial beings. Before the celestial beings ate the fruit, Yui said loudly for another time, "Please look." She bowed to the pond and clapped her hands. The frogs in the ponds jumped out and turned into the handsome young men in black holding the long-mouthed kettle made of the glazed pagoda and amber luminous cups. These young men walked to the tables and poured the wine in the kettle into the luminous cups. The wine shines in the cups with fragrance. The celestial beings admired, "This is the most fragrant wine I have ever smelled, excellent," or "My heart is drunk." Yui, holding one cup in her hand, said, "It is my great honor to have your presence on my island. The wine is specially prepared for my distinguished guests. Cheers." The celestial beings were about to drink when they saw the spiritual light ripples in the cup. At the bottom of the cup something special appeared. Some cups had the swimming goldfish. Some had the little dragon flying. Some had small tortoise moving. Some had seahorse running. Some had starless fish moving. Some had pearl shining. Almost all the sea fish and animals could be seen in the cups. The celestial beings understood that these are the miraculous drug given by Yui. The celestial beings laughed or said thanks to Yui. They raised their cups and drank the wine. The waiters filled their cups again and the celestial beings drank for another round of cheers. When they were enjoying themselves, a celestial being said loudly, "Yui, we know your spells have almost reached the peak. But can you show something more to us?" The celestial beings followed the voice and saw 8 elderly celestial beings sitting under the grape trees. One of them was a kindly-looking and bald-headed one with long white hair and dragon-head stick. He waved hands to the celestial beings. He was the highly respected empty Buddha from the Infinitude Island in the Elysium World. Out of respect, the celestial beings put down their cups and became quiet. A kid celestial being asked the eagle-nosed celestial being beside him, "You don't know him because you have just come from the 10,000-year world after self-refinery. He is most of the most competent celestial beings in the Celestial Islands continent. His has multiple and wonderful spells. In his eyes, the spells of Yui are just the games of the kids. Keep quiet and let's see." Yui celestial being, with her hands together, bowed to the empty celestial being and said, "Master Empty, hope you can enjoy my trivial spells." She then shouted to the pond, "Kids, it's time for you to give the dance." Suddenly, the ducks in the pond jumped to the air and became musicians. Some played pipa, some played flute, some played bamboo flute, some played violin, some played drum and some played hammer. At the same time, The swans in the pond also flew to the cloud and turned into the pretty fairies. In a short moment, the fascinating music began to echo in the air. The fairies began to dance and show their youthful energy and sexy posture. The celestial beings laughed happily. The performance lasted for about 1 hour. Then the fairies and players went back to the pond in the form of swans and ducks. When the celestial beings had enjoyed themselves, they stood up. An elderly lady celestial being, with purple hair on the head, gave a Zen posture, with her palms together, and said to Yui, sister, thank you for your hospitality. I want to go back home now because I have to handle some business on my island. The other celestial beings also said, we will have to leave now, thank you for much, next time I will host you on my sufficient treasures island. See you next time. Then they all rode on their animal vehicles and flew in the sky. Celestial being Yui bade farewell respectfully with her hands joined, looking up in the sky and said, thank you for your presence on the Snow Peak Island. When all the celestial beings were not seen in the sky, she waved her right hands and left hands, gave a Zen posture with her palms staying together and gave out a mouthful of white mist. Suddenly all the buildings, pavilions, trees, flowers, grass, mandarin ducks and ducks all disappeared. The land returned to the wilderness. She was then transformed into a golden ray, which merged in the snow peak immediately. The continent for 3 realms lives to pass through. The continent for 3 realms lives to pass through is a mysterious one. From the perspective of the material world, it cannot be found at all in the universe. The continent is just like a miniature of the Earth universe. That is to say, the Earth universe is the multiplied version of the continent for 3 realms lives to pass through. However, it is not the plain multiplication because the God of the heaven world going to the continents for inspection, the Buddha or God from the celestial world going to the mortal world for survey or another cycle of life, or the people of the mortal world heading towards the celestial world due to their successful self-refinery, have to pass the continent for 3 realms lives to pass through. Only after entering the space tunnel can we see the outline of the continent for 3 realms lives to pass through. But it doesn't mean that each person, Buddha or God who has entered the space tunnel can see its overall outline. In most of the cases, they just pass by the continent. For example, the people of the mortal world who have had the perfect human nature enter the space tunnel after their death. At the end of the space tunnel, they will see a colorful life bridge, the passage to the continent for 3 realms lives to pass through. After they pass the colorful life bridge, the administration of the continent will, in accordance with their spiritual nature, send them to the 1,000-year world just like sending a fax. The people cannot stay in the continent for 3 realms lives to pass through. If the heaven world decides to send a celestial being to the mortal world to accomplish a mission, they will first summon him or her to the continent for 3 realms lives to pass through before faxing the celestial being to the mortal world. The continent for 3 realms lives to pass through is like this in my eyes. After passing the colorful life bridge, we can see a rainbow heaven gate. Looking into the gate, there seems to be a colorful tunnel. After walking into the gate, we can find there are 36 doors along the tunnel standing opposite to each other. At the end of the tunnel is a brilliant radiance. Looking into the first door, I saw the burning fires with the extreme heat. Many people were in the fires crying and moaning, suffering from the scorched skin and flesh, which was really brutal. The angel said to me, this is the inflaming layer. They are suffering because it's their retribution. All people who have been killing or torturing others have to endure the sufferings here. Seeing into the second door, I found the ice blocks and cold winds inside. Many people were frozen in the ice layers, unable to move or cry. The chilly cold air penetrated their skins and bones, causing severe pain in the body. The angel told me timely, this is the frozen layer. One good turn deserves answer. They had done many bad things in the mortal world and they deserve it. You don't have to show mercy to them. I looked into the third door and was frightened. It was really a horrible world. I saw a man trying all the means to hide himself when numerous monsters, devils, goblins, and ghosts were chasing him. He rushed to a tree and stood against it, trying to hide himself from them. Unexpectedly, the tree stretched out its hairy, bloody, and thin hands in front of his eyes, then towards his neck. He ran away scared and came to a rock, standing against it. Suddenly he felt someone scratching his back. He looked back and cried, "Oh, my God!" A bloody head was on his shoulder with the green eyes looking straight at him. He was so scared that he rushed forward. Nevertheless, the ground where his feet stood cracked and sunk him. He looked down and saw thousands of poisonous snakes and centipedes were gazing him at about a dozen of meters below him. Many snakes began to climb towards him. I got sweated and dared not to see any more. The angel said, "This is the hell world. Those who had domineered and forced people out of their living have to endure the sufferings here after their death. Otherwise the spirits of the people prosecuted by them would cry in front of the heaven world gate, making a lot of noise and chaos." In the fourth door, I saw many scenes. In one scene there was thunder, lightning, and strong wind. The grass and flowers trembled in the wind and the trees swung trying to keep its branches unbroken. In one scene there was scorching sunshine that made the land crack. The trees, grass, and flowers curled in the heat trying to keep alive. In one scene there was comfortable sunshine and breeze. All things were flourishing. But when I looked carefully, I found the grass, flowers, and trees were suffering human chopping, house treading, sheep and insect biting. In the last scene there was heavy snow and the grass and trees were withering. The angel explained, "This is the plant world. The trees, grass, and flowers in the world are transformed from the life in the inflaming layer, frozen layer, and the hell world. In the plant world, they will have leaves, blossom, have fruit, reproduce and serve the insects, animals, and humans." In their past cycles of life, they had consumed too many natural resources and had done nothing good for the insect world, the animal world, and the human society. So they have to compensate for what they have done in the past in the plant world. In the fifth door, I saw the brutal scene where the law of the jungle was working. Every day all the animals were afraid of being eaten by other animals. Even those on top of the chain had to be cautious of being attacked by the humans or eaten by the same kind of animals. Meanwhile, they had to suffer from the old age and the enduring death from hunger. The angel said, "The people in the mortal world who had been domineering, bullying others, showing no sympathy or mercy, love to fight or rob, and don't sustain their parents would have to enter the animal world after their death and receive the punishment." I walked into the sixth door and saw people riding on the horse, the cows plowing or milking, the donkeys carrying goods, the dogs guarding the house, the cats hunting rats, the hens, ducks and geese laying eggs, the sheep providing wool, and the pigs supplying meat. The angel explained, "All the livestock are providing the most service as they can with the lowest demand. They do so because they had owed others when they were the humans. They had occupied others' property or land, received bribery, cheated others of their wealth with lies or fake goods, or failed to repay the debt. After they died, they would change into the animal husbandry and make compensations in the debtors' homes." I entered the seventh door and saw the scene in the mortal world. The people were noisy on the streets, some were crying and some were laughing. They were restless with nothing in their minds. The angel explained, "The mortal world is a transit station between the heaven and the hell. The wise people would engage in self-refinery and self-improvement. After they die, they would enter the heaven world. The unwise people lived with their mind blocked. They just followed the trend and kept breathing. In the next cycle of life, they would become human beings, too. The foolish people spent their days blindly busy, trying to gain things at all costs. But they don't know the loss is gain and the gain is loss. The consequence is that they have overused their fortune and would be downgraded into the lower world." I asked the angel, "What behavior makes the best life?" The angel answered, "The wise life with the behavior of the spiritual nature makes the best." I asked again, what is the wise life, the behavior of the spiritual nature? The angel explained to me, the Jehovah's Witnesses live ordinary family life without lust. They don't engage too much in the worldly grudges and concentrate on the pursuit of the future grace. This is the wise life with the behavior of the spiritual nature. The Buddhist and Taoists refining themselves in the temples also pursue the highest spiritual nature at the lowest demand. They have seen through the vanity of the world and desire the Buddha state. This is also the wise life with the behavior of the spiritual nature. And the Muslims and Christians tolerate the dissidents and behave modestly. This is also the wise life with the behavior of the spiritual nature. Then what about the other people? Does it mean only those who believe the religions can live the wise life with behaviors of spiritual nature? I continue to ask. The angel answered, to live the wise life with behaviors with spiritual nature, the people don't have to believe or join a religion. Those who become religion believers want to listen to the teachings, get into a proper environment, and strengthen belief through some rituals. If they have strong beliefs, they don't have to be confined by the rituals. Indeed, those who will become celestial beings might not think so in their mind, and those with the highest wisdom are often not the religion believers. Do the kings, emperors, ministers, heroes, great people, the rich, the dignitaries, the specialists and scholars in the mortal world live the wise life with the behaviors of spiritual nature? It depends on their heart and behaviors. In general, those who pursue the worldly fame, wealth, position and welfare are not living the wise life with behavior of spiritual nature. The more they have gained in the mortal world, the less they will reserve in the celestial world and less probable they will enter the celestial world. What about the common people? Most common people have no time to consider the deep life meaning because they are busy making a living. So their time is engaged in handling the daily affairs. Strictly speaking, their life is no difference from that of the busy worms. Due to the shallow perception, it is difficult for them to establish the firm belief. Only a few common people know how to follow their nature, lead a natural life, and keep their mind at peace. If they can be educated properly, they can also live wise life with behavior of spiritual nature. Before I continued my question, the angel said, "You have stayed here too long. I can't explain too much, otherwise I will violate the heaven laws. Please, this is my last question. Can we see the celestial world from the mortal world?" The angel answered, "In general, you can't see the celestial world from the mortal world. Only a few designated people can see it. That's the mirage seen by the people in the mortal world." After that I made rush visit to the 1,000-year world, 10,000-year world, and the Elysium World. In the Elysium World, I visited the cathode black hole body, the heaven world, the zero world and holographic order world. Upon arriving at the 7th door, the angel pushed me into the door before I knew it. I felt faint and dropped into a black hole with my head down. Gradually I lost my perception and memory. Moon Temple Continent. This is where the celestial beings listen to the teachings by the Allah, ancestor of the Buddha and Yahweh. God's Continent. This is where the God of the celestial world arranges the events for the celestial beings, Buddha. Supreme Authentic Wisdom Continent. This is where the apprentices of the ancestor of Buddha with the highest Buddha nature live. Apart from the above-mentioned 1,000-year world, 10,000-year world, the Elysium world, inflaming layer, frozen layer, hell world, plant world, animal world, and livestock world, the other worlds include holographic order world. It refers to the protective outer layer of the Earth universe, just like the eggshell. It seems that it is composed of the high-energy cloud cluster. In the chaos world, once you have understood it, the thinking can enter the state of chaotic thinking. And you can have full perception of complete freedom and the God. At that time, everything you do is right, even if you kill hundreds of people because you have been integrated with Tao. The zero world, it is where the Allah, ancestor of the Buddha and Yahweh stays. The heaven world, it is the core of the Earth universe and where the God moves about administering the universe. The cathode black hole body, it is the planet with the highest energy in the universe and where the gods violating the heaven laws are imprisoned. The anode black hole body, it is the womb of the females or women. The dream world, it is the negative space entered by the spiritual nature of the life in the subconsciousness. It is the vast space without the existence of time-space. The space reflects the history and current situation of the dreamers. In fact, it mainly reflects the future of the dreamer in metaphors instead of directly. Sometimes the reflection is reverse. All life will have dreams, not only the humans, but also the animals, plants and celestial beings. The insect world, the world of the insects. The bacteria world, the world of bacteria. The landscape and climate world, the space where the mountains, stones, rivers and weathers operate. The zero world, heaven world, Elysium world, cathode black hole body, 1,000-year world and 10,000-year are the senior spaces of life. The livestock world, animal world, plant world, hell world, inflamed layer and frozen layer are the junior spaces of life. The holographic order world, anode black hole body, dream world, insect world, bacteria world and the landscape and climate world are the intermediate world. Spiritual sense is more secure than rational analysis. Xiefeng. December 26, 2020. Translated by Qinyu and edited by Kayer. People have 6 senses: sight, hearing, taste, smell, touch, and spirituality. Their perception and cognition of the material world depend on their 5 physical senses, while those of the non-material world depend on their final one, their spirituality, for example, the past and the future, heaven and hell, the physiological field and inner activities of others, and future good or bad luck cannot be recognized and perceived by their physical senses, but only by their spiritual perception and recognition. Perception and cognition of the future can be based on rational analysis, but that is extremely unreliable because it depends on pre-existing knowledge. While knowledge comes from the summary of practical experiences in life, the teachings of predecessors, and from books by way of the physical senses, these things have their limitations. Past experiences can never solve the difficulties and predicaments faced in the present and future. Furthermore, historical experiences are mostly distorted records, many of which might even have been fabricated based on limited clues, such as the abdications of Yao, Shan, and Yu, that people have always admired in Chinese history. Perhaps it was not at all as it was recorded in Sima Qian's historical records. It is useless to use unreliable knowledge and experiences to analyze and speculate on future scenarios, and the conclusions drawn by logical inferences from questionable things must also be considered unreliable. For example, if we want to know the value of a book before we read it, it is unreliable to rely on other people's introductions and recommendations. The most reliable way is to roll up the book and then touch the center of it with the palm of your hand to feel it. If what you feel in the palm of your hand is a blast of warmth, then this book will definitely be of value to you, but if you feel a current of cold air, then it will not be. Not only is it worthless, but it might also be harmful. Spiritual perception is like testing the value of something with the palm of your hand against a closed book. This method is simple and effective because the palm of your hand will not deceive you, whereas other people's introductions and recommendations can and may. The same is true when dealing with people. For example, if someone wants to add you to their social media contacts, then his or her first sentence, their small picture or video, or an article sent by them will tell you everything that you need to know. This depends on your spiritual sense. If you feel comfortable and refreshed, then you should approve this person, but if you feel uncomfortable and unpleasant, or dark and dim, then they should probably be denied. When dealing with people, it is best to capture their first telepathy. If you feel good, then you should associate with them, but if you feel bad, then please stop immediately. Once you have dealt with people for a long time, you will develop rational analyses and cognitive judgments. At that time, cut, it won't sever, sort, it become messier. It is your troubling woe and an unspeakable taste fee is your heart. Whether it is for a person, a theory, a religion, a political party, or a country, it is more effective to use spiritual perception and understanding. For the future, spiritual perception is more accurate. From this point of view, it is better to read fewer bad books and hear fewer bad words. The more messy knowledge and information that you know, the more spiritually insensitive you will be. A glance at the 10,000-year world. Xiefeng. February 7, 2008, Chinese New Year's Eve. Translation edited by Chinyo. The misty waves extending into the distance, the blue waves stretching boundlessly, the clouds displaying 10,000 postures, and the thousands of sandy islets flush with color, these are the abundant scenes of the vast Sangting Sea, dreamlike and illusory with its silver sandy beach clean and wide, winding and stretching. The Moyen Mountains tower against the sea, with overlapping peaks and endless stretches. Its main peak, Tongtian Peak, is 90,000 meters above sea level, tall and steep, majestic above the clouds. On the top of the peak, there is a sky-gazing cliff with a wide and flat ridge, about 2,000 square meters. Standing on the sky-gazing cliff, you have a wide field of vision, looking up, observing the sun, moon and stars, witnessing the position changing of the stars. Looking down, you can see the sea of clouds and surging billows, the beautiful mountains and rivers. Looking far into the distance, the haze is gorgeous, magnificent and boundless, and you feel soothed and relaxed. Looking closely, the mountains are verdant with layers of emerald green, the silver waterfalls are flying and gurgling, and make people feel refreshing. The sky-gazing cliff is the most famous scenic spot in the 10,000-year world. Celestials with profound cultivation bases often fly here to absorb the essence of heaven and earth. They cultivate their sentiments, discuss sutra and Tao, and learn from others' strong points. Of the 100 million celestials in the 10,000-year world, only 8,000 of them can reach this place, the rest all cannot. Why? Because to get here you must rely on flying, and climbing is impossible, because there are no branches to climb and no roads to go. Celestials who arrive in the 10,000-year world for the first time do not have the ability to fly and must walk on the ground. Only after about 10,000 years of self-improvement can they fly 3 feet above the ground, and only after 20,000 years of self-cultivation can they fly above the lofty mountains and high ranges. To fly at an altitude of 80,000 meters requires 30,000 years of self-cultivation. Zigui, Danjing, Biao, Xiaoxia, Hanliang, Sangqing, Yishi, and Qiantong are the 8 celestials who reside in Fengming Ridge of the Hualing Mountains. The ridge is 30,000 kilometers away from Tongtian Peak. Today, all 8 celestials have cultivated their ability to fly up to 80,000 meters high. They exchanged smiles and then they soared into the sky, gradually rising to 10,000 meters in the air. They then flew along the Hualing Mountains. The mountains slid away behind them, and the winding rivers disappeared one by one, layers and lumps of clouds and mists receded one after another. The feeling of flying is so wonderful and comfortable, breaking through the three-dimensional time and space and entering the four-dimensional time and space feels like breaking free from a cage and being free and graceful. Words fail to capture the experience. Zigui exclaimed, 10,000 years within the cocoon, transforming flesh and bone, and once emerged as a butterfly soaring high. Without the connection with the divine, akin to double wings, how could we ride the rainbow today? Biao echoed, after countless body training sessions, my spirit becomes awakened. Through spiritual cultivation, I am able to absorb invisible energy. Embryonic breathing is activated, revealing itself as a mystical power bestowed by the greatest creator. Han Liang also felt an urge and said, for 30,000 years of building the foundation, refining the essence, transforming qi and the spirit, perfecting the structure to be in one with the Tao, begin realizing how profound Tao is. After flying for about 10,000 kilometers, the Hualing Mountains finally vanished behind them, and an endless vast grassland lay ahead. This is the most famous Marj Sangchin grassland in the 10,000-year world. Here, horses gallop, herds of deer relax, antelopes frisk, bison gallop, zebras play, camels lie idly, goshawks circle vigorously, gulls spread their wings freely, cranes and storks pose grandly, skylarks sing and dance, trumpet vines bloom all over the field, and meadow lilies dot the landscape like stars. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet blend together, resembling colorful pearls embedded in the green grassland. The blue sky, clean air, gentle breeze, and warm sunshine create a poetic and vibrant scene. Danjing was so happy she lost track of time. She let go of her voice and sang, "Beautiful Marj Sangchin, you are the garden of life, you are like a charming fairy, make me look forward to for so long, wandering on your vast chest, bathed in the flowery scenery of love, I want to throw myself into your arms and suck the fragrance of your tenderness to my heart's content." Listening to the song of Danjing, everyone couldn't help but land on the grassland. The four female celestials Zigue, Biao, Xiaoxia, and Ishi danced a rainbow dance on the green grass. The four female celestials are all about 1.76 meters tall, neither fat nor thin, with faces like peach blossoms, eyebrows like crescent moons, bright eyes and white teeth, cherry-red lips, black hair like flowing clouds, heart-shaped chins, ruddy skin, long arms and legs, high breasts, waists like weeping willows, plump buttocks, and beautiful and curvy figures. While glancing, their eyes convey emotions and captivate the soul, while dancing, they are exceedingly charming and enchanting. Their supple bodies are like tender willow branches in spring, their tenderness flows like waterfalls. They are over 30,000 years old but look like young girls in love, with profound Taoist cultivation, they behave like young maidens. Like buds just blooming, like flames burning, every movement is akin to goddesses scattering flowers, and their waist twists resemble dragons flying and phoenixes dancing. As the celestials of the 10,000-year world are all naked, their dance postures are particularly captivating, leaving endless afterthoughts, and every posture emits energy, presenting the delightful serenity of seclusion. The four male celestials, Danjing, Hanliang, Sangchin, and Qiantong, gradually enter the wonderland while admiring the dance, kneeling on the ground, and shedding tears of gratitude, as if riding the clouds and fog to the palace of bliss, or like a quiet and cold pool, motionless, with strands of energy swirling in their bodies. Waves of joy overwhelm every cell, beyond words. Come and chase me. Come and catch me. A clear and melodious shout and the subsequent laughter resounded on the grassland from far to near. Zigue and others stopped dancing and shaded their eyes with their hands and saw 6 beams of white light on the horizon in the distance approaching like lightning. Hanliang opened his throat and made a trumpet shape with his hands and shouted, "Hey! Please come here." Suddenly 6 beams of white light flew to them. It turned out to be 2 female celestials and 4 male celestials. The leading one was a female celestial named Saiying, followed by Dama, Sola, Jifan, Naji, and Sijia. When seeing the 8 celestials such as Zigue and others, Saiying was overjoyed. She circled around the 8 celestials like a whirlwind, giggling and asking, "Who are you? How did you come to this Marj Sangchin grassland?" Zigue took the lead in responding, "We come from Fengming Ridge of Hualing Mountain and are heading to Tongtian Peak of Moyin Mountain. When we passed by here and saw the picturesque scenery, we couldn't help but stop and be captivated. Brothers and sisters, what are you all doing here?" Upon learning that the 8 celestials were heading to Tongtian Peak, Saiying and the others realized that they had already attained the highest level of oneness with Tao achievable by a celestial in the 10,000-year world. A good karma was hard to find, Naji replied promptly, "We are 6 celestials from the Taiji Palace in Xiaoxiang Ridge, Tiandan Mountain, which is 200 miles away from here at the end of the grassland. Today we came out to practice flying on the grasslands. Currently, we can only fly 8 feet above the ground. We are fortunate to meet esteemed celestials like you today. We hope you will stay at the Taiji Palace for a few days and impart your celestial teachings to us." As soon as Saiying finished speaking, she grabbed Zigue's hand and exclaimed, "You must come with us. You must." Zigue cast a loving glance at everyone and had already ascended 8 feet into the air, flying forward arm in arm with Saiying. The rest of the Celestials joyfully took flight and followed suit. In the blink of an eye, 14 male and female celestial beings had already flown to the foot of Tiandan Mountain. Flying forward for 60 miles along the mountain's base, they arrived at Shaoxiang Ridge. Here clouds billowed and steamed, the purple mist lingering, the mountain flowers blooming, the fruits fragrant, and the clear stream rushing. 100 kinds of birds playing and chasing among the branches in the forest, the sound of water, the wind, the swaying of the branches and the graceful chirping of the birds merged into a symphony of heaven. Landing from the clouds, the Celestials walked slowly up along a mountain path. Along the path, they saw little squirrels jumping among the branches, koala bears hugging the tree trunk and tilting their heads to watch, long-tailed monkeys hanging upside down on the branches and swinging, and elk drinking water leisurely in the mountain stream. After a while, the Celestials came to Taiji Palace. Stood outside the gate of Taiji Palace, the breeze is gentle, cool, and refreshing, the scenery is beautiful, which nourishes the heart and pleases the eyes. The Taiji Palace is back to Shaoxiang Mountain, facing the Natsang River, with the winding Tiandan Mountains on the left and the Yingxiao Pool on the right surrounded by mountains. It is truly a geomantic treasure land with the vermilion bird to the front, the black tortoise to the back, the azure dragon to the left, and the white tiger to the right. Especially the Natsang River, which is like a white silver chain meandering and floating on the opposite vast Yunerian plain, like a dragon moving vigorously, like a silver bridge hanging on the river. Sangqing couldn't help but praise sincerely, auspicious scene Shaoxiang Ridge, geomantic treasure Taiji Palace, created by nature with extremely fine craftsmanship, blissful sensations arise on this fairy land. Everyone, please enter the Taiji Palace and rest for a while. Sijia greeted courteously. Zigue and others entered the Taiji Palace one after another. One could see that the Taiji Palace was as bright as day, and the 8 treasures of splendor glittered with soft light. There were 8 cushions in the center of the palace, which were placed according to the 8 directions of Qian, Kun, Sun, Dui, Zhen, Zhen, Li, Can, which are not only a place to rest, but also a place to practice. It turned out that there were also 8 male and female celestials living in this Taiji Palace. Besides Saiying, Dama, Sola, Jifan, Naji, Sijia, there are also Kunhi and Bairui. Looking at the expressions in the eyes of Zigue and the others, sensitive Dama immediately cleared their doubts. Kunhi and Bairui went to explore the mysterious gorge, and they will be back in a few days. The 8 treasures of splendor mentioned above consist of sunlight diamond, jadeite blue, agate jade, amethyst glaze, emerald, cat's eye yellow, olive red, and crystal rock. People who have read The 10,000-Year World know that the planet, the 10,000-year world, is 16 times larger than the Earth, and there are 16 stars of different densities arranged equidistantly in the sky, which divides the 10,000-year world into 16 zones with different luminosity. One of the zones is the dark night zone, which is eternal night, and it is precisely this dark night zones that accommodates countless kinds of gemstones in various forms, and is shining in the dark night. Therefore, all the celestials of the 10,000-year world will come here to collect and carry gems in this zone to decorate the caves where they live. The gems can not only illuminate the caves, but also be absorbed essence from, and make the caves colorful and dreamy. The flight of more than 10,000 kilometers drained the vitality of Zigue and the other 7 celestials, necessitating an urgent replenishment of energy. Saiying and the other 5 celestials also felt fatigued. The 4 celestials Sola, Jifan, Naji, and Sijia walked out of the cave and picked some delicious peaches, delicate grapes, sweet melons, and moist stamens soon after. They presented these fruits respectfully to Zigue and the other 7 celestials. Zigue and the others looked at the melons and fruits and smiled. "You can use it. We only need 8 cushions for a while." It turns out that the food of the celestials in the 10,000-year world varies according to the depth of their cultivation. Celestials who have just arrived need to eat hard fruits such as walnuts and dates, while those who have been there for over 10,000 years can eat soft fruits such as peaches and grapes. Celestials that are more than 20,000 years old do not eat fruits but only drink mineral-rich mountain spring water, while celestials over 30,000 years old no longer eat any tangible substances, but directly absorb the brilliance of the sun and moon, and the vital energy of heaven and earth. While Saying, Dama, Swola, Jifan, Naji, and Sijia were eating fruits, they watched carefully as the 8 celestials took their seats on the cushions, in accordance with the 8 trigrams directions. The 4 male celestials Danjing, Hanliang, Sangqin, and Qiangtong sit on the location of Qian, Hui, Sun and Zhen, and the 4 female celestials Zigui, Biao, Xiaoxia and Ishi sit on the direction of Dui, Zhen, Ken and Kuan. They were all sitting cross-legged with their left and right feet overlapped, and the female celestials folded their hands below their navel while the male celestials slightly bent his palms, placing them lightly on their knees with palms facing up. With their eyes and mouth closed, attention fixed, and breath regulated, they entered the state of fetal aspiration, looking like a sculpture. Internally, following their mind's guidance, a stream of essential qi entered their governing vessel through their Bai Hui, Sishinkang acupoints, going through and absorbed by the large intestine meridian of the hand Yangming, the small intestine meridian of the hand Taiyang, the triple energizer meridian of the hand Xiaoyang, the stomach meridian of the foot Yangming, the bladder meridian of the foot Taiyang, and the gallbladder meridian of the foot Xiaoyang, and the impure qi was expelled from their Shangyang, Xiaochong, Jing, and Zutongu acupoints. Another stream of essential qi flowed from their Huiyin and Yongquan acupoints into their conception vessel, absorbing the essence and energy through the hand Taiyin lung meridian, hand Xiaoyin heart meridian, hand Jian pericardium meridian, foot Taiyin spleen meridian, foot Xiaoyin kidney meridian, and foot Jian liver meridian, and expelling impure qi from their Zhongchong, Xiaoshang, Yinbai, etc. acupoints. At this moment, the energy from the confluence of the conception and governor vessel, Ren and Du meridians, converged and spouted from the 4 acupoints of Haiquan, Jichuan, Yiyue, and Jinjin, filling their mouths with saliva. The saliva continuously flowed through their esophagus into their abdomen, and in a short while, their dantian was filled with energy, their fatigue was gone, their spirit reappeared, and their light of nature was complete. The 8 celestials slowly opened their eyes, slightly parted their lips, deeply and slowly inhaled, then exhaled slowly, smiled, and stood up from the cushions. Saying, Dama, Swola, Jifan, Naji, and Sijia watched closely, understanding the principle that eating qi makes one deity-like. Zigui and the other 7 celestials then explained in detail the principles and methods of eating qi. After a few days, the 8 celestials bid farewell to Saying, Dama, Swola, Jifan, Naji, and Sijia, and ascended into the air from the Taiji Palace Gate, flying towards the Tongtian Peak in the Moyan Mountains. They flew over the Bixia Mountains, the Yuhua Mountains, the 800-mile Shilbo Lake, the 900-mile Seifiaqui Plain, the Celestial Fascinated Gorge, the Valley of 10,000 Birds, the surging Blue Nephrite River, and the Double Ocean River, and arrived at Qiandao Lake, which spans over 160,000 hectares, approximately 10,000 kilometers away from Tongtian Peak. The expansive lake, seen from high altitude, resembled a blue curtain adorned with emerald pearls, offering beautiful scenery with crystal clear, soft, shimmering waves, and presenting diverse and auspicious postures. Meanwhile, on an island called Coral Bamboo, 16 celestial beings were observed practicing walking on the lake's surface. Zigui and the others visited Coral Bamboo Island and demonstrated and explained the key points of walking on the water to the other celestials. Due to space limitations, the scene and plot are omitted. On this day, the 8 celestials flew to the Pure Bath Garden, which is only 100 kilometers away from the Tongtian Peak. It is the holiest place in the 10,000 years world, where peculiar avoidance of vulgarism trees grow, magical psychic flowers bloom, and magical upward flowing springs flow, the purple air on the ground is steaming, especially in a small and serene pool, its temperature changes wonderfully. It is sometimes scalding hot, sometimes bone-chilling, sometimes spewing, and sometimes quiet. Only those who have practiced for more than 30,000 years can enter the pure bath garden, the holy place. Those who have not cultivated enough will feel a strong repulsive force when they come to the edge of the garden and will feel restless and uncomfortable all over. Those who have cultivated enough will feel a strong pulling force when they come to the edge of the garden, and will feel calm and refreshed, and their energy will increase significantly. Therefore, any celestial who wants to fly to the Tongtian Peak must come here to verify their own cultivation. Only those who can enter the pure bath garden can fly to the Tongtian Peak. The 8 celestials came to the pure bath garden, feeling completely relaxed and happy. They felt a pulling force on them and then smoothly entered it, details omitted. They bathed in the sacred pool, and after the bath, they thoroughly remolded and emitted an exotic fragrance. This fragrance was like sandalwood, tuberose, musk, jasmine, rose, geranium, cinnamon, lavender, but it was none of them. It penetrated the heart and lungs, drunk one's innermost, connect divinities, open Buddha eyes, lighten one's bones, and enhance their energy. The 8 celestials bathed in this fragrance